Thank you. This question is for Terence. You spoke a lot about fines in other countries that have been given towards drug companies. Have we ever fined in Canada prior to Vanessa's law? Has there been any fines given in Canada?
None that I know of. I talked to one of the lawyers at Health Canada recently, and he said he wanted them to use powers in the Food and Drugs Act that exist right now for a $5,000 a day fine, and the lawyers laughed at him. They're not going to use the resources of the courts to collect a $5,000 fine, and that's what's in the existing law. So none that I know of. No, this is a huge change.
We're going to move to the left. Is there someone with a question?
Hi, my question is...
If you could also please state your name, that would also be helpful for us.
I'm Nikita, Nikita Singhal, and my question is for Dr. Robinson. I was wondering, what do you think it would take to actually change the medical curriculum and make sure that new graduates know that the drugs shouldn't be their first line of action? Like, that should be a last resort after trying these others.
Well, I'm happy to say that the University of Toronto Medical School is tomorrow morning having the official opening of the complementary and integrative medical center that they're starting. And as of last fall, they agreed to have the Acupuncture Foundation of Canada Institute introductory course as a selective for medical students, and they're actually funding up to 3 students. We had 1 student this year. We're booked to have 3 next January. That's a little bit of a start. I think one of the things that has to be in the curriculum is the way that drugs deplete nutrients. I think that's something that is overlooked all the time. And the drug companies take great pleasure in pouncing all over some kind of claim, any kind of claim really, for anything that's, quote, natural. And I think they probably have PR firms that are out there organizing sabotaging of that kind of thing. I think that's, you're an authority on this.
They do.
They do.
Where is the meeting going to be held tomorrow, Vaness?
Oh, it's at Scarborough General, but it's they're going to have a center there, and I don't know all the details of it. I'm the selectives coordinator. That's why I became an assistant professor, because I had to have an appointment at U of T, which I never had. I never had it because I don't have my CCFP because I'm so old. They hadn't invented family medicine when I graduated. I was a GP.
We're going to go to the right now for the next question. Can you please stand up?
Can't hear you.
Just stand up, and that's wonderful. Thank you.
Mike is not.
No, right. Try it again. That might have been what blew.
Oh, maybe.
So can you speak loud if you don't mind?
I'll try.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name's Natasha. I'm asking a question, I guess, to Terence. What happens when the physician doesn't inform you about the side effects, and when you report them to the College of Physicians and Surgeons?
Nothing.
Like,
Nothing happens. They don't care.
And that was a short answer. Great question. Short answer. We're going to go to the left now for another question. Someone on the left?
Hi, my name's Rhonda. For Blair and Terence, what is your advice for enforcing C-17? It sounds wonderful. Is it a grassroots? Is it grassroots, or is Health Canada empowered to be a watchdog? What happens now?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Well, once it passes 3rd reading in the Senate, and it's a government bill, and we have a majority there, it's going to pass. The Governor General has to sign it into law. Then it has to be published in the Canada Gazette, which is a federal government newspaper. Then it is the law. But it's going to take time to implement these changes. It's not going to be immediate. There's not going to be immediate change. 70% of adverse drug reactions are preventable. And so eventually, I'm hoping we can get up that high to stop all the ones that are preventable. But it's going to take time and change in the culture. every section of the bill is going to take time. But I just told somebody asked me that at the Senate. I just said I'm going to be watching them like a hawk, and there will be others doing the same. But I'm convinced that Health Canada officials, you've heard what I said about the bill. They really mean it this time, and they're going to enforce the bill. If they're not, it's Parliament's duty to make sure they do. So,
Blair, do you want to add a comment to that? What will it take to enforce the bill once it's passed?
Oh, well, I mean, it's going to take the health minister to choose to enforce it. I mean,
political will.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that, just the turnout here tonight, I mean, it really shows that people are waking up because we've been duped for far too long.
You know, it was interesting. Yesterday with Blair, we spent a few hours with David Bruiser and Jesse McLean from the Toronto Star, and we have their articles out in the hallway on easels as a collage. And we had a long conversation about this. It's up to the people. It's up to the people to put on the pressure, which is why we've got people's right to integrative medicine. If the people are not mobilized, it's going to become a piece of bureaucracy that we'll remember, some of us. But if we really want to see change, we have to mobilize the people, which is why I'm working with PRIM and Pat Gill and the team. It really is about mobilizing people. We're going to go back here. Question. Which side were we on? Right side.
That's the middle.
We'll get it into the middle. Yeah, don't worry. The people in the middle. Just put your hand up so we can see you clearly. And stand up in your name. Great. Thank you at the back.
My name is Patricia Riley, and 2.5 years ago, my 23-year-old son died from an adverse drug reaction from a drug called Champix. Like Terry, I immediately rallied. I got my MP on board. I rattled up the company with phone calls. Where do I put my claim in? It seems to be one of the only industries where you can't deal directly with the manufacturer. You have to go to court. I'm a self-represented litigant because there is not a lawyer in this town that sees my case as a slam dunk. I practice law. I've never told the other side that I practice law. And what I've seen is what we call in the industry as sharp practice. I'd like to know if we're going to move down the road like we had to with the West Ray mining incident, where we're actually going to put some of these people in jail, charged under the criminal code. I've been following the Senate hearings. I've seen partisan politics. I'm very concerned that my Prime Minister is making trade deals with Europe when most of these drug companies originate in their power in that European base. I commend you for your work, Mr. Young. Everybody in this room needs to get behind this gentleman. There's a lot of heavy lifting still to be done. There's a lot of regulation. We have a Senate that has become expertise in this matter, and we need to write to these folks and tell them that we need to be a leader in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patricia, condolences from all of us. There's nothing more painful than burying a child. Today in the United States, the FDA had a hearing where the company that manufactures Champix is trying to get the black box warning removed. And Champix is the most violence-provoking drug there is, with SSRIs, those antidepressants, right behind them. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of work to do. We are fighting. It's a David versus Goliath battle, but we know we can do this. But it takes a collective effort. Get involved with PRIM. Go to peoplesrim.org or primcanada.org. We are starting to move across the country in our efforts, and just register with us, subscribe with us, because we need your voice. Please do that. Visit our exhibit after tonight. Question to the left. Jillian, is there someone with their hand up? Up front?
For Dr. Rapson and Terrence, Are you aware that vitamin D over 1,000 IU is a prescription drug in Canada?
No, it's not.
Over 1,001 IU?
No, it's not. There is a prescription drug which is 50,000 IU of D2. That's a prescription drug. You take that, they give it once a week, but not D3 1,000 IU. No.
Truman, I take a couple of thousand a day. I got the drops, put them on the back of my hand and a glass of water. So I appreciate what you were saying. So
My shipments from the States have been stopped.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, okay. No, that's okay. The thing is, in the States, you can buy capsules that have 2,000 in one capsule, and they're not made here. You can get one that's got 5,000 in one capsule also from the States, and you can have them shipped here.
But I'm saying I import a capsule that's 1,000 and a liquid with 5,000, and Health Canada stops at the border saying it's a prescription F drug.
Oh, okay. Well, the ones that my nurse ordered got to my clinic last week.
Could I just comment on something that was raised
course.
earlier? I totally agree. It's people are making this change happen. Perhaps the most common use of the internet now is people looking up getting information on their own health, and they're driving the change. I'm very pleased to hear what I heard about University of Toronto. It surprises me. It surprises me because those people who want alternative medicines and want to investigate other ways to keep healthy, they're up against the wealthiest industry in the world, literally for the last 25 years, who have their hand in every institution that we rely on for critical thought, including our newspapers and magazines with advertising that is in a lot of cases actually illegal. You're not supposed to advertise prescription drugs in Canada. Our universities, our hospitals, they're in there with huge donations for building funds, and they will not hesitate to say to the president of the university or the president of the hospital, you're not getting my money if we don't get this or that. They throw their weight around. They're extremely wealthy, and they use it to exert huge influence, and they will not hesitate. They will not hesitate to tell TV stations or newspapers or magazine owners, you know, we didn't like that story you wrote. That wasn't very fair to us. And they just don't call them for about 3 months or 6 months. So they're not getting the money they need. Number one advertiser on U.S. television is pharmaceutical companies. So you hear about a case like the man who shot 26 people, murdered 26 people at Virginia Tech, who was on or had just come off an antidepressant drug which caused these bizarre acts of violence. And for 3 days, all you hear on TV is the talking head saying, well, he split up with his girlfriend, and he was a loner, and all this nonsense. And nobody says he was taking a drug that said right on the label can cause suicidal or homicidal ideation. No one ever, they don't think to say that. Of course they do, but they can't afford to give up the advertising money.
Blair, I know you lean forward in your chair, so I know you've got something to contribute
Well, I mean,
to this discussion.
they're also capable, and I'm not sure if it was in Scotland or Ireland, they will threaten if they have a plant there. They will threaten the government. We can just move our operations somewhere else.
They don't fear any government, including the U.S. government. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, these companies, they are international, and they are, I mean, in their opinion, more powerful than governments. They operate all over the world, and you know, I gave a couple of examples yesterday of how Coca-Cola, you know, they transcend boundaries. I mean, Coca-Cola used to manufacture a Coca-Cola a day during World War II for the U.S. soldiers. What they don't tell you is that they had to start another company called Fanta. And Fanta Orange was the drink of the Waffen SS. So, I mean, this is big corporation.
The
I mean,
Waffen SS?
the Waffen SS, that's correct. So,
Waffen SS.
yes, ma'am, the Nazis.
The Nazis, yeah, that's what I
That's
thought.
right,
That's what I thought.
Truman, see what you caused tonight? We'll go to the right for another question. Somebody with their hand up. Again, please state your name. That would be wonderful.
Parliament, why was the Propulsit prescribed in the first place?
Vanessa had a mild form of bulimia. She threw up after meals on and off for a year. It was an off-label use. It had been verbally promoted in the doctor's office because that's how they were getting up to Blockbuster. And it was a dangerous use, in fact, because teenage girls that throw up can get electrolyte disorders, and they knew. So they officially said, The day that Vanessa died, we looked it up on the internet, and they said 341 heart arrhythmias and 81 deaths. Of course, it was hundreds more than that, but that was the official figure. So it was an off-label use just to increase the sales. No one should be giving anyone a potentially life-threatening drug for a non-life-threatening condition, which is what they were doing. They do it all the time.
We'll move to the left. Is there another question over to the left or towards the middle? Up at the back?
There's a middle person.
If you could put your hand up actually before we get to the next question, so, because we are running tight on time. We've got
Okay.
probably
First of
enough
all-
time for
oh.
2 more questions after this.
I'd like to express, I think, the gratitude of everyone here for all the work these 3 people have done. But I do have a reservation. I've been a consumer advocate for quite a number of years, and the Minister of Health has a lot of power. And I've been concerned, I've heard, that the trend away from medicine, drugs, is causing the drug companies to buy supplements and natural health products, and that will now put them under the control. And like, who is the minister going to listen to when this starts to happen? That they'll now find somebody will come up with a lawsuit or a complaint saying a certain natural product should be taken off the market. And some of them are drugs or alternatives that people have been using for years for their health, and now they could not become available. So I see that as a kind of a downside that I hope we've got a thought to, despite I'm very happy with the legislation with that small proviso.
Thank you. If you read the preamble of the C-17, and you can see in the bill itself, Vanessa's law, it does not direct itself towards natural health products. They're not in the bill. We made a decision as a government in 2006, I believe it was, to treat natural health products differently based on public interest and public pressure. So it's those rules don't apply to natural health products.
But the thing that happened in Europe was that the big pharma bought up companies that made vitamins and so on. And they have something called Codex. Do you know about the Codex? Like in Europe. And what it ended up was they took over and they got it so that in order to get products that have higher than recommended amounts of drugs in them, you have to go get a prescription. And you have to go to your doctor, get a prescription, and pay big bucks for it. Well, the way that these things are set, the amounts that they recommend, is really, if you study that, you'll be really alarmed because there's no basis to it. People sit around in a room and pick a number out of the air, kind of. It's not got a very solid basis. So that's one of the consequences that can come from them buying up the natural products. But you're right. I mean, I don't know who can control that.
We've got 2 more questions tonight. Someone over towards the middle right over.
He's got.
Oh, you've got the microphone. Wonderful.
Yep. My name's Chris, and I guess this is a question for Terrence. I was just actually texting with a friend of mine who used to work at GlaxoSmithKline until he discovered what they do. And he noted that one of the things they've also done in the past is orphan drugs, where they'll essentially stop their support for a drug if it doesn't have enough, quote unquote, market. Regardless if it is helping people, it has to be a certain number of people, I understand. And I guess that's part of my question for Terrence. Does your bill address that issue? Also, I noticed in your slides it was often the minister may this or that. And I wonder if there was negotiation around whether that would be the minister shall or the minister may. Because ministers have a lot of powers and often don't necessarily exercise them where business interests are at stake. I think another point that I just wanted to put to you here is, as has been said, this is not just big pharma, this is big business when they operate above the law. And I wondered if, I used to work in public health, and I know another big aspect of that is environmental health. And I wonder if you know of any efforts in other industries or to regulate other industries in similar ways in terms of labeling and disclosure of test results and things like that to protect us from effects of emissions, say, or pesticides in these other big businesses that also sort of exist above the law.
Several questions.
Well, we have the Environmental Protection Act. I don't know of any innovations or any movement to change or improve it like this. This has taken me 14 years, so it's sort of, although I am going to be introducing a private member's bill to ask for labeling on these things right here, because they emit electricity in the air. There's some concerns that the electricity is affecting people's health. And so that'll be strictly with regards to labeling, raising awareness of this. Sorry, what was your first question? Oh, you asked about... Yeah,
Orphan drugs.
No, Vanessa's law, I can't think of any way it addresses that. You can't force a company to make a drug, but you can go to compulsory licensing. In other words, you could go to market, go to the generic companies and say, this company owns the drug, they refuse to make it anymore. If it's a patent, we'll commission you to make some. And there have been drug shortages, and some of it has been real, and some of it is manipulation by the pharmaceutical industry.
Sure.
They scare people. We're going to stop making the drugs because they want to shake up the FDA and shake up Health Canada. They wouldn't hesitate to do that sort of thing.
Don't you think they also stop manufacturing the old, tried and true cheap drugs so that you're stuck having to prescribe the newer ones?
Of course they do. And some antibiotics, some companies have just said, look, antibiotics, we're not making any, they don't say it publicly, but they're not making any money on them. And there's always a risk they'll get sued because there are a number of antibiotics that can cause nasty adverse reactions. So they just go, we'll let other companies make that. We don't make enough. I mentioned to you that the blockbusters are the golden calf. The ultimate one, the ultimate that all the companies want right now is a drug that helps patients with Alzheimer's. There is no drug on the market that helps Alzheimer's. Yet they're selling a whole number of them, including powerful antipsychotics that numb out the seniors in a chemical straitjacket. They fall out of bed, break a hip, they're dead 6 months later, or they're getting diabetes because their blood sugar is all screwed up by Zyprexa or Risperdal. And the chance of risk of increased death for seniors on Alzheimer's on Zyprexa, for example, is 200 to 300% higher. This is happening real time right now. They are killing our seniors in seniors' residences all over North America right now with a drug that was only approved for psychotics and very serious psychosis.
Also Seroquel.
Seroquel's the same, Risperdal.
Yep.
And they've got the doctors convinced and the families are convinced. They go to see mom and dad and they go, see how much better your dad is? And he's sitting there like this. And before he was wandering, he's not better. The man could be dying. He could be getting diabetes from that drug. This is going on real time.
Is there one final question? We're going to move on up in this side. I think I saw a couple hands up on this side a bit earlier. Have the questions been answered? Well, Joanna, you're going to have a chance in a minute to...
Blair wanted to say something. Oh.
All right. Joanna, do you want to ask your question?
I'm very interested in what you had to say about vitamin D. I saw some doctors speak about it recently in Ottawa.
Need a mic.
I'm very interested in what you had to say about vitamin D, and I saw some doctors from California speak about it recently in Ottawa. Can you tell us very simply about vitamin D and sunshine? Because we hear so many contradictory things. I believe there's a powerful benefits from taking from higher doses of vitamin D, but we hear a lot about the risks of sunshine, which apparently is the best source of it, and because of skin cancer. So could you comment briefly on that?
A few years ago now, but Aileen Burford Mason and I attended a conference that was put on by the Canadian, American, and Australian cancer societies, and it was about that. It was about the conflict, and at one point in the afternoon, somebody from the Canadian, the Cancer Society, he gave a lecture on the evidence for the risk, and we looked at each other when he was finished and said, "That's all?" We thought it would be more powerful than that. There is evidence that the lower that your vitamin D is, the higher risk you have of melanoma. It's ironic because you're getting out melanoma from the sun. the thing that people have to know is that the time of day that you can make vitamin D is between 11 and 2. The sun has to be pretty much directly over you. When it goes below 45 degrees to the Earth, to the it bounces off the ozone layer, so you don't make any. At this time of year, sun's too low. You can go out naked all day. You're not going to make any. So you have to know that. Don't know that if your shadow is longer than you are tall, you're not making it. And people don't go out. And their kids, they cover their kids up with sunscreen. So that, you have a conflict of interest here with the sunscreen companies and the dermatologists who've been telling everybody that they have to put all. You get what do you hear? You hear the ozone, the scale on the, what do they call it? The ozone thing.
Ozone layer?
Yeah, the thing in the data on the news when they tell you what the risk is. The UV index. Well, if the UV is high, that's great. You can make vitamin D. Now, the thing that I think is not really, that you have to be careful of is how much can you be in the sun safely. And the guideline that they've been putting forward is to just below a burn. You might turn a little tiny bit pink. That might take, depending on you, if it's me, it'd be 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But the darker you get, the longer it takes to make vitamin D. And that's one of the things, this is one of the great public health problems that we have in this city, in this country. We have so many dark-skinned people. The darker your skin is, the longer it takes to make vitamin D. If I go out in July, I can make 10 or 20,000 units in 20 minutes. And if somebody's skin is as dark as that table, that'll take 10 times longer. And they won't go and sit in the sun. Why would they? They don't want to get a tan. All the white people want to get brown, and all the brown people don't want to, it's crazy. But
All right.
anyway, sorry.
No, we're going to take one final question because two people stood up at the exact same time, and it was a tie. No, the question's at the back. Gentleman's got the microphone. Please stand up, state your name, and make it a great question because you're closing the Q&A.
Sure, yes. Hi, my name is Dennis Barry, and I studied psychosomatic therapy for, I studied a good 4 years ago. I've been practicing it for the last 3 years. Now, my biggest challenge has been for insurance companies to actually provide the funding for these natural therapies. And like this therapy doesn't need any drugs or doesn't need any vitamin D. And I've successfully treated people with anxiety and depression, those being the main ones, along with some others. Now, is there anything in this bill which would actually, force insurance companies, like all the big corps there, to make these natural therapies accessible? No? Okay, well, maybe they should. And
That'll be his next bill.
Okay, thank you.